Okay, so hopefully you've had a good sort of discussion around that. And again, this is where the evidence is brought in. This is where all the research supports what we're trying to get across here. So the evidence is clearly out there. So the papers that are put on Blackboard will underpin and support this. So we know with young children, if they're not physically active, if they haven't got good fundamental movement skills, they're likely to be obese. So the paper by Oakley, the paper by Logan et al. 2010 has demonstrated that kids that are slightly more obese, weigh a little bit more, they're the ones that tend to be poor physical activity, poor fundamental movement skills. Similarly, we know the link between physical fitness and physical activity. Kids that have got poor fundamental movement skills are not physically fit. That means they don't do very well in tests of like a bleep test, 20-meter sprint, vertical jump, agility test. We know they are less physically active, so they're not as active in the day in a typical week. It's also linked into something called relative age effect, so RAE. Relative age effect is when you are born in the calendar school year. So the calendar school year starts the 1st of September, split into what we call 4 quartiles, so 3-month blocks. So September, October, November, first quartile. December the 1st to January, end of February, second quartile. So we tend to find that kids that are born in the first and the second quartile of the school academic year are slightly more mature. And because of that, they tend to have slightly better movement skills. So those kids that are born later in the school year, so they're born June, July, August, so quartile 4, they tend to have less developed fundamental movement skills. But is that as a consequence of being slightly less physically mature? So what do we do with those kids? Do we recognise that they are late maturers and hence we put a little bit more attention and consideration for them? Or do we think as coaches and teachers, these kids over here aren't very good at sport, have got poor movement skills, we just won't bother with them? The good coach and teacher might think, oh, they're very small at the minute, they were born late August, they're late maturers. So we need to give them a little bit more time and consideration to grow and develop. And similarly, the kids that are born the 2nd of September, that are very well developed, they're very physically strong, they're bigger than all the other kids, what happens with them? Because they tend to be the most talented performer, but they're going to probably miss out on key stages of development because we push them a little bit quicker, a little bit sooner. And we've all experienced that, haven't we? Where, I'll give you an example. The rugby player, at 13 years of age, big, strong, powerful, quick, can just charge through a team because everyone's too scared to tackle him or her. So as a consequence of that, what aren't they developing? Well, they're not developing offloading skills, ball handling skills, agility, balance, because they don't need to use it. But what happens when everyone else comes up and catches them up that have developed those skills? This person here will fall behind because they haven't developed movement skills. So it works both ways. We know kids that are involved in more clubs and participate in more clubs have got better fundamental movement skills. But is that as a consequence of parental involvement? Is that as a consequence of money, accessibility? So those kids that live in an inner city area where there's not many sports clubs, they come from single parent families where the parents haven't got money or don't encourage them, or they come from a normal family where the parents haven't got much money or don't encourage them. Do they get the opportunity to develop those movement skills? So all the evidence out there in terms of a holistic sort of development whether it's mental, psychological, academic, social, tends to suggest if we can develop more rounded children, as a consequence of having good fundamental movement skills, they will have more opportunities in life.